What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, and we are live for the first time talking UFC Vegas 59, Hill versus Santos, the Ultimate Fighter 30 finale. And I've got an awesome guest for you guys. I mean, I kind of blame this guy for making me do all the shenanigans on YouTube and Twitter week to week. This is ErikBetsFights. He was one of the first people to have me on a platform on YouTube. I was on his Big Money Bets a few months ago, and since then, thanks to you guys, my channel has grown quite a bit. Got a great community of people here to help me talk through these fights, listen to me ramble, my misunderstood genius week to week. And I'm going to bring in ErikBetsFights. I think a lot of you guys know this guy. He's a very smart gambler, pretty much like the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson of our community here, just the nicest guy in the world. So without further ado, here's ErikBetsFights. What's going on, Erik?
Hey, Patrick, thanks for the intro. I appreciate it, man.
Of course. I'm going to break open some good whiskey here just to kick off the inaugural stream, and we'll get into talking about this. But how'd you do last week? And I got to ask the embarrassing question. Nice. There you go. Cheers. I got to ask the embarrassing question to you, Erik, and put you on the spot. Did you bet Don'Tale Mayes, and how did that go for you?
Patrick, of course I bet Don'Tale Mayes. I did. I didn't go real heavy on him or anything. I think I had 1.4 units at minus 140. But yeah, that was actually the first bet I made on the card. That was the first spot that I liked, and we all saw how that went. But
I gotta say I don't so much blame Don'Tale Mayes for that one as much as I don't even blame Hamdy. I blame Hamdy's opponents. You know, that big Matt Strickland guy that looked like a 6'6" pair. That's the guy that made me pretty much bet Don'Tale Mayes. So, and fair warning, a lot of the Ultimate Fighter 30 heavyweight cast this season kind of looked like that guy too. So we might have another low-level bum heavyweight fight in the Ultimate Fighter finale. But you're kind of the king of that after betting Chase Sherman wins by knockout in round 3 a few fight nights ago. So I think I brought on the right guest. And yeah, I mean, what do you do week to week, Erik? Let the people who haven't seen you, know where to find you. I know you were on Pub Sports Radio. Might have been the first spot I actually ever saw you talking fights.
Probably on DFS by the numbers.
Yeah, maybe.
It's probably, yep.
Oh, right. His pre-fight show, yep.
Yep. How's it going, everybody? For all those of you who don't know me, you can find me at ErikBetsFights on Twitter, at Erik_bets_fights on Instagram. I put out material on my own channel, ErikBetsFights, and then also on the Never Hedge Media channel. Each week I do a show called Mixed Martial Smarts, which is a trivia video about I do it each week that there's a UFC and there are questions about the fighters on that UFC card. I put out a full card breakdown on Wednesdays. I do a show called Big Money Bets on Thursday nights, and then I do a show on Saturdays on the DFS by the Numbers YouTube channel, and then popping around here and there where I can and doing guest spots like with Patrick here.
Yeah, man, you're everywhere. And I saw your full card breakdown you dropped on your channel today, and I usually watch it right away when it drops, but I wanted to keep the suspense, keep a little bit of a surprise here, and see if we line up on these fights or maybe not. There's a few I do have some questions on, and I didn't have a good read on. You know, I went and I binged watched. I haven't watched The Ultimate Fighter since it was Vanderlei and Vitor as coaches, and that was, I think, in 2012. That was the last time I actually watched The Ultimate Fighter, like, through its entirety. I don't know if you watched that yourself, but I had to go back and binge watch, like, all the fights that happened in the house so I could prepare for the 2 fights that take place. And I don't even know if I made any progress by watching all that tape study, so we'll get into it, starting with Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Stephanie Egger, the first fight of the night on the prelims. This is actually a bantamweight, right? So this is the second time that Silva is up at 135, usually fighting at flyweight. And Stephanie Egger, I think this line has flipped where now she is the favorite, like a minus 115 to maybe like a even money play on Silva is where I got her at. I actually did put a bet on Mayra Bueno Silva at plus 100, 1-unit play. I just like her stand-up ability. I think she's a little bit dumb with her fight IQ and choices at times. You know, she's very aggressive, crashes into the pocket. What I don't like when I see fighters showboating against like Manon Fiorot when she was losing to her, she was like sticking her tongue out at her and just acting all stupid and not really trying to win the fight. I don't like that, but I think the disparity on the feet in the favor of Silva is just so much better here. I think she can bust up Stephanie Egger. And my worry, though, is that she's going to crash the pocket like she does and go hip to hip with Egger and end up on her back. Maybe get armbarred the way that Rose Clark did. But for plus 100 on the better fighter on the feet, I'm willing to take it. What do you think on this fight? And do you think Egger really stands a chance at submitting her here?
Yeah, you know, when I finished the tape on this fight, I was expecting to find Mayra Bueno Silva as like a decent-sized favorite. You know, I was thinking maybe she was going to be, I don't know, minus 150 or something like that. So I was kind of surprised. And I was like in my mind, I was thinking like if anything, people are going to overvalue Silva here and are going to undervalue Egger, but that obviously doesn't appear to be the case. But yeah, this is a fight that I don't really feel like I have a strong read on it. I don't really have a strong lean one way or another. You made a lot of the same points that I would have made, that like, Mara Romero Barella was able to take Mayra Bueno Silva down in a clinch position, kind of going hip to hip like you were talking about. And yeah, I think Stephanie Egger will likely be able to do that too. If they do end up on the ground, like you said, Silva will she'll work off her back. She'll look for subs. I don't think it's likely that she finds a sub on Stephanie Egger if it does play out there. But also, like you said, Mayra Bueno Silva can crack. I mean, she has real legit power on the feet. And that's why, like I can see, I can see advantages for either fighter depending upon where the fight plays out. And so I agree with the line being as close as it is. And so this is a spot where I'm not going to bet it, but if I was going to bet it, I would probably just bet whoever had plus money, because it's pretty much a coin flip to me.
That's a good one. Do you have a play on this fight or no right now yourself?
I don't know. And
you
had mentioned, you had mentioned that we were going to do try to give a prop for each one too. And
if you had to, you don't have to play this one, but if you had to play a prop, like what do you think is the best option here?
My book didn't actually have any props out for this one, but like I do think the fight probably goes to decision. So if I was going to play a prop, probably what I would do is just wait till close to the fight starts, see who's at plus money, and bet them by decision.
Not a bad play for a lot of these women's fights at the lower weight classes, but I went the complete opposite with the prop. I saw plus 200 on the under 2.5 at a certain point. I've seen plus 185 as kind of the lower end there too. I just think Silva could actually present some threats in the feet that Egger hasn't seen before. Really bust her up. I think the stand-up is that different. And then if nothing else, Egger could, get her to the ground and submit her. So I think that's the best play. Probably won't get there. I don't like betting unders, especially at, women's bantamweight, but I would go. I think the best value is probably right there. I think both of these women could finish. But before we move on to the next fight, go over some of the chat here. It's a Grateful Dude, the first one in here. Jamal Hill fight week. Love to see it. I'm a big fan of Jamal Hill, so that does make up for a lot of the lackluster fights on this card. Got my boy Victor De Jesus. This guy's always working on a second shift here, always popping into the streams and listening. I appreciate you, Victor. And the next comment, I put him in charge of actually making sure I don't bet a lot of parlays this week. I'm still in parlay rehab, so last week left the parlays aside, executed a moneyline scheme and just went flawless with that pretty much. Got a lot of underdogs and a lot of straight plays. Besides Dontel Mays, I still went up quite a bit. So this week I got really excited and I put Victor De Jesus in charge of making sure I don't parlay. So I can't disappoint Victor. Oh, Sicky Does MMA, household name. Got to check out Sicky Does MMA's channel too. It's getting a lot of action in a very short amount of time. Oh, what's up, Jenna? There we go, off the Twitter. My boy Johnny K. Picks. I was on his stream with Blood Money Bets last week. We did the pre-show on Cody's channel. And I saw those two did a stream today as well. So Whiskey MMA, two amazing MMA minds. Maybe one, maybe ErikBetsFights. I don't know about myself. Hit that like and sub. Any action MMA? What's going on? Yeah, the complete opposite. Never parlayed so far. I have two this week. Yep, exactly. So moving on to the next one, we've got more women's MMA action. We've got Cory Mckenna making her return after her disappointing loss by split decision that should have been unanimous back at UFC London in March, taking on Miranda Granger, who's making a 2-year-long return after, I believe she had a child, so that's why she's been off. No weird injury or anything like that. Is that the case, Erik? I believe so, yeah. Yeah. So no real injury or anything, but she is 30 years old still, so still, kind of has time to make some improvements. Cory Mckenna only 23, but there's that big 10-inch reach advantage in the favor of Miranda Granger. I saw her at plus 195, and I had to put a half a unit on Granger just because of the size difference. And, the lack of the fight IQ from Cory Mckenna last time out was just shocking. She just goes in there, tries to crash in the pocket with blitzing 1-2s to Elise Reed, just got outpointed all day long and would go for the takedown she's known for. But at the very end of the round, it didn't count. So I think she probably will just be yelled at by her coaches all camp long to wrestle early. But I don't know if she gets there with Miranda Granger, and at minus 230 on the money line for McKenna, that's just way too much for me. And I just think that I'm not one of these, Erik, this, I'm not one of these value boy bettors, and all my, watchers know that I'm not just betting underdogs just because they're mispriced, but this one is just so disrespectfully mispriced. I had to put at least a half a unit on Granger. I'd say after 2 years, that's worth a gamble on 195 that she comes back maybe a little bit more improved, and she's got 10 inches of reach. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all. I don't have anything on this fight, but if I was going to bet it, I would absolutely be going for the dog money here. And, my basic thought on this fight is that I think each fighter has a very clear advantage that they could use to win this fight, but they're both fighters that you can't really necessarily trust to use that advantage. With McKenna, of course, being the wrestling that we've seen. I mean, she has, like you mentioned, she's very short. She's 5'3", and her reach is equivalent to, I believe, like 4'10". So I think she might actually have the shortest reach in UFC history. Yeah. So she should be, her trainers, her coaches should be working with her and helping her to understand that, like, look, boxing is not your thing. It's not, especially not when you've got a 10-inch reach advantage, but against anyone, she's going to have a reach advantage. So, we would hope that they're working with her to want to push the wrestling more and more. If she does push the wrestling here, I think that's a great path to victory for her. Granger does have, I think, 5 wins by sub. So, I mean, she's certainly not a fish out of water on the ground. And I think the big advantage that Granger would have if she would choose to use it is that reach advantage. If she would stay on the outside, keep a jab in her face, use that 1-2, but she doesn't really look to do that a lot of the time. She'll kind of crash into the pocket, kind of awkwardly put herself out of position, put herself off balance. So it's like they each have a pretty clear path to victory, but I don't trust either of them to use it. So in that case, I think it makes a lot of sense to put a bet on Miranda Granger like you did, simply because largely that size difference, right? I mean, it's going to be difficult for Cory Mckenna to be able to deal with that, I think. So yeah, I wouldn't be throwing Cory Mckenna in parlays or anything. I don't mind that shot on Granger. If I was going to bet it, I'd do the same thing.
No, McKenna's been historically pretty durable, it seems like, so maybe my prop for this one would have been like the Granger by decision at plus 300. Maybe is a better look for this. Who knows what's going to happen? I do believe in the ring rust after 2 years. That's not a good look. She hasn't been getting any action. And, any action was wondering like why the books got to that price. I think it's because it's a clear like path to victory for McKenna to get the takedown. She is able to do it. And I think you're also getting the layoff price is going against Miranda Granger. And then also she lost to Ashley Yoder on her last appearance, which is not a good look. Ashley Yoder's I think she went 8-8 before she got cut by the promotion. So that's not a good look either. I think that also drove the price up on McKenna just because they're fading, Miranda Granger here, but half a unit, whatever. I'll throw it on there. We're going kind of crazy. We've got 4 women's MMA bouts. I think I'm taking 3 underdogs out of those 4. So what are you going to do? Poppins pops this chick like a pimple. McKenna just might, if she can get in range, but Miranda Granger, not really using her range that well. So the coaches are bigger idiots because they were giving McKenna striking advice in between rounds. Yeah, that's right, Victor. I remember that. That was I remember hearing that after the fact when I rewatched it. During the actual fight, I was actually just yelling at my TV because I had McKenna in a parlay, of course, back in March. So
did I.
Yeah, and just watched her just piss it away. And then we had that moment of, I was actually even more angry that the judges called it a split decision, because that just should not have been a split. Clear loss for McKenna. I would have felt really dirty, but I happily would have counted my money if she came through. Did you have a play on that one? A prop?
Did you say Granger by decision was plus 300?
Plus 300, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the prop that I had put down was McKenna by decision, which has a minus sign in front of it, and I hate props like that. It's minus 145. But yeah, in a fight that could play out closely, I don't mind that Granger by decision plus 300. That's probably a better spot than I do think McKenna wins this fight, but that plus 300 is kind of a nice number. Also, if you get into playing those point spreads at all that Bet Online usually has, the plus 3.5 points. So for McKenna not to just get a 30-27 shutout, it's minus 150. I thought that was a decent look too, just for at least one round to go to Granger in that bout. But who knows? She might not look that great coming back. But anyways, move on to something a little bit more exciting here, which is Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan. This is at welterweight, 170. Jason Witt, has to wrestle to get this done. This is one of the more binary fights of the card, right? Jason Witt, 19-8. He's got way more professional MMA experience than Josh Quinlan. Josh Quinlan, this Hawaiian kid coming in with 5 professional bouts, winning 3 of those by knockout, all by finish, coming off the Dana White Contender Series where he got a first-round knockout, and just vicious hooks up close with this guy. His striking is unbelievable at welterweight, super jacked up, muscular guy, won within I think half of the first round, I want to say, knocked down his opponent and basically just landed 8 more vicious hooks up against the fence before that kid just succumbed to the pressure. So against the chinny Jason Witt, this seems like a clear play for Josh Quinlan, coming off a bit of a layoff after the popping positive for steroids. And
When I saw him fight Erik, it gave me nostalgia because he looks like he's running like a Vanderlei Silva emulator when you watch this guy.
Totally.
He has that high guard, awesome Muay Thai stance, just crashes in, might actually get hit a couple times just to return 3 or 4 vicious hooks up close. And then when I was stalking him to see if he got any skinnier off of the steroids or if he's still on them, I saw he trains. He's like one of the coaches at Van Fight Team and over with you in Vegas. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm like, they must teach just fight just like Vanderlei over there. So I'm taking Josh Quinlan here. I think he wins. Minus 225 on the money line for a debuting guy. Not my favorite spot here. I could see him getting out wrestled for 3 rounds potentially. But I played his KO prop. Actually, I made a bet on that at plus 100. So that's the spot I like, just a unit play on that. I think if this is at any point in striking range, I think he can win this fight. And we've seen him on the regional scene actually finish fights late. So what do you have on this one? Do you believe in Josh Quinlan, or do you think Jason Witt grew a chin all of a sudden?
I do believe in Josh Quinlan. Before I give my breakdown of the fight, I want to say this. I didn't realize that there was still like a Vanderlei Fight Team in Vegas until pretty recently. Mm-hmm. And so I looked it up and I looked at the website, and they have like part of the gym is a big store with all kinds of like different Wand Fight Team gear and stuff. So I was like, man, I got to go check this place out. So I drove down there one day and they were closed. So that's the end of the story. Okay. I haven't been back. So anyway, I went down to the gym there, but dude, I'm in the same boat as you here. There are a lot of fighters who get sort of tagged with that, like, okay, this person has a bad chin, but I feel like there's levels to that. Sometimes a fighter we talk about them having a bad chin just because they have been knocked out a couple times, but they can still take some shots. Jason Witt cannot get punched. I mean, literally, he doesn't just have a bad chin. He has maybe one of the worst chins that I can remember ever seeing. If you punch Jason Witt squarely in the face, it's pretty much game over. And Josh Quinlan is a guy who not only will punch him in the face, he will punch him in the face very, very hard. He hits very hard. He throws his punches very accurately. I literally think this is a fight this fight could be over the minute Jason Witt is close enough to Josh Quinlan for Josh Quinlan to hit him. I feel like I'm oversimplifying, but I'm in the same boat as you. I also bet Josh Quinlan by KO, and I even put a little bit on his KO in round 1 prop at plus 290.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And another way to look at this fight, if it doesn't play out that way, Jason Witt, finding a ground and pound finish or finding his way to a decision is fairly likely, I think. But it's going to be dicey for him to be able to close the distance and get takedowns without getting dropped, I think. So that's kind of how I see it playing out.
Yeah, there's no real sometimes if I almost feel like Josh Quinlan was off of a loss just because he's been gone for so long. But I think it was like back in September, October, he got the contract, and he's been off on that suspension. I see the MMA Jesus asking why. How is he in the UFC after taking serious PEDs? Well, I think part of it is because he didn't challenge it. A lot of these guys will challenge it with, like the high-profile guys, John Jones. They'll say tainted supplement, which is just always a clear lie. But then they have to go and investigate that, Josh Quinlan actually was just fessed up to it. He says, yeah, I wanted to get bigger and stronger. And he just, so they just said, they tested the sample A and sample B. They said, did he do this? He said, yes. And they said, here, okay, first time, whatever, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it may be. So he made it a little bit simpler by just fessing up to it. But he probably could have gotten off of that if he would have just said it was a tainted supplement or something. But he just owned up to it. Seems pretty, unfazed by it. He just said, yeah, I wanted to get bigger and stronger, so I took it. So, yeah, Wineland may have a worse chin than Witt at a certain point for sure. But, yeah, I'm with you. I think Josh Quinlan gets this done, and it'll be fun to see another person sacrifice to one of these up-and-coming Dana White Contender Series. But the money line way too wide. I would definitely play the inside the distance prop here for the fine Hawaiian Josh Quinlan. So moving on to the next one, we have another welterweight bout with a newer guy in Brian Battle taking on Takashi Sato, who is one of these gritty veterans who's returning now. Takashi Sato, this is almost another binary fight in a way, right, where Takashi Sato is just a bit one-dimensional in his, southpaw striking. Just he does have a lot of finishes on his record and a few submission losses as well. But so far, I thought maybe I'd be taking. I'm always one of these guys that wants to take the guy with the more experience, the veteran. But then I actually watched who Takashi Sato was facing, and it was guys like Ben Saunders and Erik, Ben Saunders from like way back in the day. Like they brought him in for a second stint, and he was just as chinny the second time. So Takashi Sato was able to knock him out. He knocked out Jason Witt in under a minute, who we just talked about. Other than that, he's kind of been facing guys that have beat him pretty easily. And, we just last saw him against Gunnar Nelson, who controlled him the whole time. So Brian Battle, I'm only a bit skeptical because this guy is really just coming off the Ultimate Fighter. He just fought Tresean Gore, which was like the redemption fight for the Ultimate Fighter, true crown. So he hasn't really fought anybody who's truly at that UFC level like this yet. But I'm not sure that Takashi Sato has ever been at that level either. So we're going to figure out where both of these guys are at. I like all the striking volume from Brian Battle at 27, the bigger guy here. It looked like his weight cut was going well to get down to 170 as well. So you might want to wait until after the weigh-ins to make sure he doesn't like miss weight drastically or something. But in all the interviews I saw, it looked like it was going okay for him. So on a big win streak, I'm taking Brian Battle by decision here, and that's probably the way I look to play this. I think I'm just going to take Brian Battle just on the money line, though, because this might go under. All the numbers point to the fight doesn't go to decision, which is actually a plus money here. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you said. I think the big story of this fight is really just in the volume that these guys put out. Sato is he's pretty KO dependent in order to find a win, for the most part. He's waiting to find that big shot. He's not trying to pepper you up with strikes. He's not trying to be a Diaz brother. He's waiting for that opening to catch you with that big one and finish you. And Brian Battle is a guy who puts out a lot of volume. I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment, but I think Brian Battle attempts something like more than twice as many strikes per minute, I think, as Takashi Sato. But so, and Battle throws a lot of kicks. I think it's going to be a situation where Battle's just going to be so busy, constantly moving, constantly landing strikes, making it difficult for Sato to get the game going that he needs to get going. And I also like Brian Battle by decision here. Last I looked, it was at like minus 125, which again, I don't love playing props with that minus sign in front of them, but that's one I don't really mind because I do think that is a really likely outcome. Sato by KO is at plus 400 last I looked. So if you do think that that's a reasonable possibility, I think it's a spot where if you're going to play Sato, you just play his KO prop because I don't think he's going to win a decision here. But yeah, I do like Brian Battle by decision as well.
Probably the only way that Daz jumping in. What's up, Daz? One of the best mainstays in the MMA world here. Battle money line minus 265. He's just not that guy. Fade for me. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, like I mentioned, he's just pretty much just coming off the Ultimate Fighter if you really think about it. So one thing I do like about the test that he had in Tresean Gore is this kind of was like a warm-up to Takashi Sato, right? Gore is pretty much going to win by knockout or by finish. He was able to pass that test and, come through with a couple of dinks on the chin, but he was able to like withstand it and keep going. So that might happen. But yeah, all of the output, it actually was something like over 7 significant strikes landed per minute for Brian Battle over his 2 bouts so far. We've seen Gilbert Urbina and, this one over Tresean Gore. So I like the activity for sure. And I don't know, I'll roll the dice on Brian Battle. I'm just mostly fading Takashi Sato. I don't think he's all that great. And in 5 UFC bouts going 2-3, and the 2 guys were really old chinny guys. So I don't know. That's about it. Going on to the next one. What do we have here? Something else? Something outside of the – going down a weight class now to 155. This is the biggest money line of the entire night. The minus 900, minus 1,000. Terence Mckinney versus Eric Gonzalez, who is like a plus 600, plus 650 you can get him at. Eric Gonzalez, we saw him one time. He's one of these guys off the Combate regional promotion. Didn't even do that well there. He could beat all the lower end guys, but guys like Humberto Bandenay, who was in the UFC and was pretty terrible, he lost to him. Rafa Garcia, he loses to. He comes in short notice to save the day versus Jim Miller and gets knocked down in the first round and then promptly knocked out cold in early of the second round. So he's been finished in 3 of his 6 losses. That was the first time he'd gotten knocked out, but Jim Miller's not like some power puncher threat historically. So to get knocked out by him is actually I think he got hit on the head like over 20 times in 1 round by Jim Miller. So not very good striking defense. He seemed very slow to react. I think you need a lot of things to beat Terence McKinney. You need to have speed, or you need to have really good durability to drag him late. Because Terence McKinney does fall apart. Drew Dober showed that if you're durable enough and you can withstand that early onslaught of Terence McKinney, you can actually turn the tides on him really, really quickly. It was like 3.5 minutes. The tides were turned, and he was defenseless and getting slept on the canvas. So I'm on the Terence McKinney side. I don't know how to play this. All the money lines and stuff are just like blown out of proportion. All the props are out of proportion. The under 1.5 is like minus 245, which is how I would probably play this. But I mean, if you want to play you'd have to start playing contrarian if you want to make plus money off of this. You'd have to say, what if Eric Gonzalez could make it over 1.5? You can get plus money on that, but not something I want to stand in the way of. What do you think about Terence McKinney?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, there's really not much you can do with Terence McKinney here from a betting perspective. I mean, he's minus 200, minus 200 inside the distance, I believe. No, he's like minus 400 inside the distance, minus 200 in round one, I think.
Yeah, that's what Daz just put.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then if you want to pick a method, I think he's like plus 175 by KO in round one, plus 175 by sub in round one. You know, a couple fights ago when he fought Fares Ziam, his sub prop was like plus 900 because the bookmakers hadn't really caught up yet with the fact that he's just as likely to come out with a sub as with the KO, but they figured it out now. So his sub line isn't great either. So yeah, there really isn't much that you can do with Terence McKinney here. And so even though I think the most likely outcome here is Terence McKinney to win in the first 2 or 3 minutes, then I'm like, all right, well, I got to at least look at what Eric Gonzalez has to offer here prop wise. Right. And Eric Gonzalez inside the distance can be had for like plus 1,100. He can be had in round two around like plus 3,000. And like you said, let's say Eric Gonzalez is able to survive that onslaught in the first 3 or 4 minutes. What we saw against Jim Miller doesn't give me a whole lot of faith that he would be able to. But if he does, like you said, Terence McKinney doesn't just fall apart in round two. Terence McKinney falls apart in the second half of round one. He doesn't even have an entire like round one of hard gas in him with the way he fights. So like, I think it's a great live betting spot because, yeah, McKinney is probably going to come out there and just mop the floor with Eric Gonzalez. But if he doesn't, and we start to see McKinney slowing down toward the end of round one, I think there'll be a great opportunity to jump in live on Gonzalez. But yeah, if I was going to bet anything pre-flop here, I don't like any of the numbers on McKinney. I would probably just sprinkle something like Gonzalez inside the distance at plus 1,100 for like 0.1 unit or something just to have some action. But there really isn't anything that I like here number-wise.
It's actually not bad. I didn't even look at that really, or I just might have ignored it after seeing the tape on Eric Gonzalez. He just looks so slow, and the punches he does get off are so slow and telegraphed. But that's what Terence McKinney looked like against Drew Dober when he found out he couldn't get him out of there early. You saw him like attempting like spinning back fists or spinning kicks and things like that, and it just looked very, very slow. His high kicks were taking like a couple seconds to make it to the target. And Terence McKinney, if you follow him on Twitter, have you ever seen like all of the, even before his last fight, like he made like a montage of like all of these like super fast finishes. Like, oh, I'm the first one to have a knockout in 7 seconds. The first one to have a 5 knockouts under a minute. All of these 12 fights inside the distance. He made like his own montage of like his own work and was retweeting that like every day before the fight. So he kind of believes his own hype. I wonder if this loss he took from gassing out in a way, like kind of made him rethink the way he fights. But 12 out of his 15 fights, 15 out of his 16 fights have all been under 1.5, either for or against. So maybe he just doesn't know any other way to fight. I'm not sure he'll fix that after just taking one loss, So I don't know, but yeah, that's the way I would look for this. There's no way I can get in front of the money train that is Terence McKinney, but he's not worth minus 1,000 over just about anybody. I do like your plus 1,100 for just inside the distance on Gonzalez, or is that knockout?
Yep. Yeah. I think that was his inside the distance. Yeah. And then you can get him in round two. Like you can get him to finish in round two at like plus 3,000. And that's the kind of spot that, cause we don't know what it looks like if Gonzalez is able to survive that. I don't think he will, but it could be interesting if he does.
There we go. Defensoria. Hey, my new fan from Blood Money Bets stream last Saturday. Love this guy. He's awesome. I'm from Mexico. My English sucks, but I'm happy I can understand most of the conversation. Awesome. Yeah, you're right. Daz Files is right. Great live bet opportunity there. But yeah, I mentioned the bookie site's probably going to crash by the time you can even get those open. You're going to have your finger on that pretty much before the clapper goes off. 10 seconds left of the first, if it makes it that long. But yeah, I don't know. Moving on to another fight with a blown out money line here, and that's Sam Alvey taking on Mikael Oleg Zaychek. I believe Mikael Oleg Zaychek's all the way up at like minus 600, right? Let me double check that real fast. I know these lines have been changing since I did my notes. It's something
I think
crazy.
He's even at 700 in spots. Yeah.
Oh yeah, up there. I see minus 700, mostly minus 600, plus 450 on Smiling Sam Alvey. I was actually at Sam Alvey's second professional fight ever. He's had a long career. I was in high school at the time. This is like probably back in 2008. I want to say because he's from Wisconsin and he's right around my hometown. So he did a couple of fights in the area, and his second one I happened to be at, and Yeah, he started off very strong in his career. He's now 13, 17, and 1 draw over Dao Jung. 36 years old only for his, he's probably about like 70 in fight years. He will be the bigger man here. This is at 185 versus Mikael Oleg Zaychek, who's coming back from 205. So Mikael is surprisingly only 27 here, 6 foot tall, 74-inch reach. So Sam Alvey going to be the bigger man here, the taller man. I'm not sure he'll be the faster man. I expect Sam Alvey to go back to his old ways and pretty much just counter-strike off of his back foot in that southpaw stance, circling the perimeter of the cage and looking for that one massive 1-2 combination, maybe a left hook to land on that nice round cranium of Mikael Oleg Zaychek. I'm not sure it'll put him out. Mikael is either, he starts fast and gets his opponent out of there. He's got a lot of finishes, 11 KOs for Lord Mikael Oleg Zaychek. 16 of his 22 fights have finished inside the distance. A lot of the stats here are pointing on this fight going under. And, unless we get a very, very timid version of Mikael Oleg Zaychek, I think he does get Sam Alvey out of there, and this is Sam Alvey's last UFC fight. They did tell him, this is the end of your 4-fight contract, and they said, we're going to encourage you to retire is the wording that they used apparently after this. But Sam Alvey, I saw he wants to keep on fighting, whether it's in Bellator or maybe even the PFL. He says he's not going to finish. He's not done fighting. He's only 36. He feels healthy, so he just joined a new gym and moved to a new location. So do you see any value at all on Sam Alvey here, Erik?
I don't know that I do, but at the same time, it's a spot where it's similar to the last fight where if I was gonna bet it, I would almost be more interested in looking at the Alvey side, because I think Mikael by KO is at -110, which is that's okay, I guess. I don't mind that. Yeah. Mikael by decision is at +175. So yeah, it's his money line is so blown out that the props just really aren't that great. But yeah, it's hard to see. Mikael is coming down for the first time in weight. There's a possibility that could affect him. I don't really think it will, though, because I think this is the weight he should have been at the whole time anyway. I think this is going to suit his body better than the weight he was at before anyway. So it's difficult for me to find a spot on either side of this that I really like. I did put Mikael in a parlay at -600. I don't necessarily think that that's a great idea, but I did it anyway. I do things as a bettor that I don't think are great ideas all the time. But yeah, I can't quite get there as far as taking a shot on Alvey here, but I wouldn't really touch Oleg Zaychek too much with the line he's at either.
Yeah, I don't see much promise for Sam. I was trying to think of all of the instances in the past, over 2 decades of watching this, where there was a guy on this big of a loss streak that came back and got a W. And the only one I could find was Andrei Arlovski. Actually had, he had 5, and he came back and, got a couple wins, then had another 4-fight losing streak. And now he's been on a win streak, but nobody's really come back. I think, didn't Keith Jardine have 1 million losses at the end, but they kept him because he was very exciting. Eventually they had to cut him. Same with Rashad Evans and guys like that. So I don't really see this ever turning around. And Sam Alvey should be fighting guys that are like a Brian Battle or somebody like that that's coming off the Ultimate Fighter, not somebody who's been pretty well established in the UFC. Mikael, I'm still trying to figure out, because he's been fighting a mixed bag of really bad opponents and really good opponents, and you don't really know exactly where he's at, And sometimes he just looks very inconsistent. But I like Mikael here, and I like the fight doesn't go to decision. It's only sitting around -160. You'd think this would finish at some point inside the distance, honestly, just with all the stats leading it to it. And I think Sam Alvey might be kind of KO or bust here in round 1. He did. I don't read into what people say in their interviews too much, but he did say he wants to go out, in quotes, in a blaze of glory. So, and he predicted he was going to get a knockout in the end of round 1. So
that just means he's actually going to throw some punches in this fight. That's what he means by a blaze of glory.
I think he will be. Yeah, I think he will be headhunting once again, doing the exact same thing he always does. So, yeah, I don't know. We got RDO, the subscriber from Brazil. I love to see it, and he says, he likes your hat, Erik, your Gracie Jiu-Jitsu hat. She said, he says it's really close to where he lives. That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. 8 fights without a W, man. Counting that draw with Dao Jung, pretty shocking. And Sicky doesn't mind the over 1.5 if the odds are okay. I'm not quite sure what that is, to be honest. I think that's got to be something close to even, right? Let me check real quick. Oh, the over 1.5, yeah, minus 180 about. Yeah, not bad. I mean, it could go there. So again, you're getting that mixed bag of Mikael is sometimes very eager to go balls to the wall in round one. Sometimes he's not. So we'll see who we get here. Again, it's like you might be really confident you can take out Sam Alvey knowing he hasn't gotten a win since 2018. But at the same time, who wants to like rush in range and get knocked out by that guy too? So I don't know. Moving onwards to another female MMA bout at 125. I like this one a lot. This is Ariane Lipski taking on Priscilla Cachuera, one of the dirtiest players in the game, and I like her for it. She is the plus 150 underdog here. Cachuera taking on Ariane Lipski around minus 180 the last I checked. Lipski, not really the most impressive. She was like the KSW champion over there at a weight class. I think it might have been flyweight as well. She's got a very good Muay Thai base, but when she gets pressured, that base kind of goes away. Both girls here, they do not like getting taken down. This is almost like a sketchier version of the Ji Yeon Kim Jocelyn Edwards fight from last week, in my opinion, where both girls might look a little bit different here. They might look a little bit more confident since they're not getting that threat of the takedown constantly. Neither of these two girls actually go offensively for takedowns and ground control. If they landed there, probably Lipski's got the better of that. But Cachuera is just, man, her face is just a catcher's mitt for punches, just a magnet for fists and shins. And she keeps moving forward. She's so durable and so aggressive. And I think at women's flyweight, that actually means a whole lot. You can be the less skilled fighter, but if you're just big, menacing, you're not afraid to bleed and get hit and move forward the way she did against Gina Mazzani when she was too tired to get takedowns, the way she did against Ji Yeon Kim in her last fight that she somehow got a W in. She just was not afraid to keep on eating punches and kicks and moving forward. And I like that. I'm going to take Priscilla Cachuera here to get the upset in a very close fight. I think Lipski definitely is the more skilled mixed martial artist. Do not get me wrong there, but Cachuera just has that thing about her where she can just wear you down. Can Lipski stay, cardio-wise and mentally? Can she stay in the fight when she's getting backed up 15 minutes straight? I like Cachuera. I've got a small play on Cachuera by knockout at plus 5. What do we have here? Let me see. 575 is what I got her at. Plus 575. And round 3, Cachuera knockout is plus 2,000. So I had to put a sprinkle on that too. What do you got here, Erik?
It's funny you mentioned that Cachuera round 3. I was just thinking about that earlier today. I don't have anything on that yet, but that's a spot that I might end up putting a little sprinkle on. I have a lot of the same reads on this fight that you do. Lipski is clearly the more technical, the better fighter of the two. She's a little bit more low volume. And like you mentioned, Cachuera, I think like if you allow Lipski to have space to work, you allow her to have the like tight, tactical, technical kickboxing fight that she wants to have, she's going to win that fight. But like you mentioned, Cachuera is somebody who will come forward, who will be aggressive, who will make it dirty, who will, make it difficult for Lipski to be able to settle into that style and to have the fight that she wants to have here. That said, I do still lean Lipski to win this fight. I think what I put in my notes was that in order to take a shot on Cachuera, I'd probably do it if she got up to like maybe plus 170, plus 180, something like that is kind of the spot where I would potentially bet her. But I do like that finish, that KO prop you mentioned. I think that's a pretty good number. And then that round 3, because I think Cachuera definitely has the finishing upside here. But it's gonna be a stay away for me. I'm gonna pick, if by way of a pick, I think I would go with Lipski by decision. Some props that I liked here. Yeah, I did put down that Cachuera by KO at plus 575. You can also get Lipski by decision at plus 135. Or another one I looked at was Lipski by sub at plus 525. She does have some, like you mentioned, they neither of them really necessarily looks to grapple actively most of the time, but Lipski does have some subs on her record. But I do like Lipski to probably win a decision here.
Yeah, I like Lipski. Don't get me wrong. Lipski is definitely the more polished fighter. Definitely should, definition-wise, win. She's got the experience, just the technique, and just the better wins overall, She's been in some bigger spots over in KSW. But I love that pressure of Cachuera. And I'm not betting her money line, but I'll bet the long shot stuff like the 5.75 to 1 prop on the KO, the 20 to 1 prop on the round 3 if she can pressure Lipski and just break her eventually. So that's what I'm banking on here. But no money line bet on this one for me. I would probably go with Lipski if you're betting the money line.
Yep, that's the way to go. I think you chose some good spots there. Those are the exact spots I would play if I was going to.
Plus, I mean, just also the willingness to cheat for Cachuera. That's definitely on her side. And that's an underlooked part of this game. You know what I mean? So she'll be grabbing cages and, putting her nails. Probably has brass knuckles under her gloves. You never know with her. So moving on to This is almost your speed, Erik. I'll probably count this. This is middle tier heavyweight with Augusto Sakai and Sergey Spivak. I think these guys are definitely, a little bit more experienced than what you're best at calling. But I'll still say they're big sloppy guys, especially Sakai. So Augusto Sakai on a 3-fight losing streak, all by stoppage. We're talking about Tybura. It was probably his best win. Now he's lost against Overeem and Rosenstrike and Tai Tuivasa. So not bad guys to lose to, but you're still all of your momentum at 31 years old at heavyweight is gone versus Sergey Spivak, who's coming off of a very impressive win over Greg Hardy, who's since been cut. But I like the skills from Spivak. I like his ability to get this fight in clinch range and take it to the ground from there too. Sakai does his best work in the clinch usually with the big knees. He's just a big guy to turn the opponent around in the cage, work the dirty boxing and things. And he just lumbers into range and just stalks you and eventually looks for the big knockout shot. But Spivak, I think, is big enough. There's going to be probably about a 20-pound size advantage in the favor of Sakai here. Height-wise, they're about the same. Age-wise, at heavyweight, they're about the same. But I think Spivak can make some improvements here. And, Sakai actually truly has not been tested in his takedown defense all that much. Only a few guys have actually really taken him down. Overeem was really, with some really simple techniques, Overeem was able to take him down over and over again. So I think Spivak is going to be one of the more technical takedown artists he's fought, and I expect Sergey to get the win. I do like, rather than side here, I do like the under, or the fight doesn't go, is like minus 160. And for these two big boys, Sakai with the knockout potential, Spivak with both the ground and pound and the submission potential. I like this fight not to go, but I am leaning Spivak as a pick. What do you think, Erik?
Yeah, a lot of the same reads again. Like you said, Sakai, his takedown defense really hasn't been tested. I think he faced 7 takedown attempts on his Contender Series fight. And outside of that fight, I think he's only faced 7 total takedown attempts in his 7 fights in the actual UFC. So yeah, he has a good looking takedown defense number, but it's largely because he just hasn't faced a whole lot of attempts. I do think Spivak probably can get him down. Like you said, Sakai's going to be the bigger guy here. He's not necessarily going to be easy to take down, but Spivak being a guy who's a little bit more of a little bit more judo style as far as his takedowns. He's not necessarily going to be shooting out in open space. He's good at clinching up and looking to off balance his opponent, find trips, find ways to get him down like that. I think Spivak will be able to get the clinch and because he knows that's what he needs to do to win this fight, right? So I think he will work until he's able to make that happen. So I do lean towards Spivak probably being able to win this by sub, but I don't mind. You mentioned the under there, because if he can't get the takedowns, or if he tires himself out looking for the takedowns, Sakai is definitely live to put him out on the feet as well. So yeah, I think that under is a good look. I do like Spivak quite a bit here, but I don't really like the number that he's at. I feel like he should be, what is he at, like minus 220 or something like that right now? I feel like he should be maybe more like, I don't know, minus 180, something like that maybe. So I don't love the number, but he should be able to get the win here, I think.
It's fun looking at these guys like Augusto Sakai. I believe the guy was on the Dana White Contenders Series at a certain point, wasn't he? Way back when.
Yeah, he was on the Brazil.
Yeah, like one of the first seasons of that. Then after that, who has he really fought? I love tearing apart people's records here in hindsight. He fought Chase Sherman, got a 3rd-round knockout over him, so that's not really looking that good. Arlovsky, split decision. Tybura, like I mentioned, that was the most impressive one, a 1-minute knockout. Then he fought Ivanov in a fight that was super close. Could have gone either way. That was a split decision win. And then since then, he's gone on that, 2020, that loss to Overeem, the really unfortunate first-round loss at the final second to Rosenstrike. And then Tai Tuivasa is just looking unstoppable right now. But again, where are a lot of these guys beating him? Like Rosenstrike and Tuivasa were getting him at clinch range against the cage, usually where Sakai is comfortable and really good at facing his opponents. So he's getting kind of beat at his own game in certain spots. And 31, not the oldest for heavyweight. There's still room, but I don't think he's going to reinvent the wheel at this point in his career. I could see Sergey Spivak, getting more muscular, getting more, we'll see what he weighs in. He weighed in 244 pounds last time. So maybe he pulls one of those Volkov moves and gets, the Moldovan guy gets a little bit bigger, as he matures. So I don't know. I'm taking Spivak. Like you said, the money line, probably a little bit too much. I would look for the under here. 2 big sloppy boys. I don't know if they're going to make it to the final bell. So, and honestly, for that, minus 160 is not bad for a fight doesn't go. This is a confusing one, and I really want to know your take on this next one. Again, women's flyweight. We're getting towards the end here. This is the first of the 2 Ultimate Fighter finales here. So one of these 2 girls will be the Ultimate Fighter. We got Brogan Walker, who's 7-2 professionally, and Julianna Miller, who's actually 2-1 professionally. And one of these two women will be the Ultimate Fighter. So a little bit silly here, especially when you watch the Ultimate Fighter and you saw the performances that these two put on in the house. Doesn't seem like either of these two girls would like really last very long in the UFC, to be honest with you. But Brogan Walker, the underdog here, slightly at like plus 110, plus 115. That's held pretty firm. You know, Julianna Miller, the slight favorite. Brogan Walker's 33. Julianna Miller, much younger at 26. So a little bit of a favor that way. Tail of the tape wise, a little bit of a height advantage for Julianna Miller, who's a really good grappler, really good submission game. Seems to, you know, like a lot of these specialists in jiu-jitsu have trouble getting it there, but if she can, very good back take, really knows what she's doing there. Her striking does not look like it's very good at all. Brogan Walker at least has decent striking, but, you know, her output can slow down as the fight goes on, I've noticed. That's my only gripe on her. She seems to have pretty good takedown defense, but she did get controlled by a few women on the regional scene. And in the Ultimate Fighter house herself, she got backpacked by a girl, you know, after she was kicking her ass. So she still won the decision, but she got backpacked for a whole round. So I don't know. Submission defense still kind of up in the air for Brogan Walker. Julianna Miller, her stand-up and, you know, takedown offense is still a little bit up in the air for me too. So I'm taking Brogan Walker here. I just think at the underdog price tag for two women that are low level, I think Brogan Walker looks like more of a polished MMA fighter. She's got better experience, but I'm really confused by this one. And I see Brogan Walker sitting at like plus 150 decision. That's where I would lean. I haven't gotten there myself betting wise, but I want to know what you think about this one, Erik. Did you watch those Ultimate Fighter fights in the house?
I wasn't familiar with these two fighters at all until I watched the tape for this card. I haven't watched any of the tough season. I wasn't watching any of it while it was unfolding, so I did watch some of their fights to prepare for this. But just now when you said their ages and you said Brogan Walker was 33, I was like, wait a minute, I have her at 32 in my notes. So I pulled up her Tapology. It was her birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Brogan Walker. That's why. That's why. But yeah. So since I'm not really that familiar with these fighters and I only watched some of their footage from in the house, I don't know that I have a super strong read on them. But some of my thoughts are. I think Brogan Walker is the more polished fighter, the more experienced fighter. But from the footage that I watched, she struggles to pull the trigger a lot. She's one of those fighters who she's very aggressive with her movement. She's very aggressive with her as far as the eye test. Like she looks like she's ready to go and like she's ready to kill, but she just doesn't let it go. She's just like, look how aggressive and scary I am. I'm not actually going to hit you, but I'm going to act like I'm going to hit you kind of. And so And Julianna Miller is exactly the opposite. Julianna Miller comes out throwing that long, hard jab. She's not afraid to get wild with her strikes because she doesn't care if she ends up on the ground. She doesn't care if she ends up on her back. Like if she's comfortable there, she fights well off of her back. She's able to scramble to more advantageous positions well. So Julianna Miller is definitely the more aggressive of the two as far as coming out and actually looking to get busy and throw strikes. And like you said, Julianna Miller, she does have a good sub game as well. If you look at her Tapology record there, she's done a bunch of grappling tournaments lately. She's been doing a bunch of grappling. So yeah, I mean, the line's close, and I think I agree for the most part. And Miller is a slight favorite. That part does surprise me a little simply because of her, she has less experience and is a little bit less polished. But I do like Miller to win here. It's not a super confident choice. And one prop that I like that I found here was Julianna Miller by sub at plus 500. I thought that was a spot that might be worth taking a look at. She is pretty sneaky and pretty tricky with the grappling. I think you mentioned she's not necessarily a great offensive wrestler. She's not necessarily going to be great at getting the fight to the ground, but she's also the kind of fighter who, if she's able to clinch with you, she has no problem looking to backpack you standing. She has no problem just getting to the position she wants to be in, even standing up. She's not even necessarily going to worry about the takedown. But yeah, I think it probably will be a close fight, and I think it's an interesting fight. I'm interested to see what we can learn about these two and whether they're fighters who actually can contend and hang out at this level. But I do favor Julianna Miller a little bit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of giving me some insight here because all week I've been wondering what I've been missing on Brogan Walker. Why is she held firm as the underdog? She's got great experience. She did look like much better stand-up fighter to the extent in the house. But I think you're right. I think it's more of a recency. What have you done for me lately? Not I saw you beat Miranda Maverick 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. What did you do in the Ultimate Fighter house? Were you the more output. No, it was probably Julianna Miller was like the more aggressive, fighter there. You're right. And I think Julianna Miller, you're right. She's better at what she does, which is the groundwork, than Brogan Walker is what she does, which is like a stand-up generalist. You know what I mean? So that might be why the line is the way it is. And the youth is on her side. So a size slightly too. I agree with that. So yeah, I'm taking the plus money side of this one as a pick. Not sure. Now you've kind of warned me off of that Brogan Walker by decision play. I'm kind of like less ready to pull the trigger. I had that written down to play, but I probably won't do that now. So,
well, like Victor mentioned in the chat here, that can't wait to see your fight. Walker is way more experienced and technical, but Miller definitely wants it more. I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah. That's pretty much my read on the fight too, is that if nothing else, Miller's going to get out there and get after it. She's a fighter who's going to fight for your money, so to speak. And Brogan Walker is a fighter who's going to come out there and mean mug and look like she's going to fight for your money, but she's not going to let it go from what I've seen anyway.
They probably want her to win too. Honestly, she had like the better personality as far as what I can see, and like the better, she's really good on the mic. She's got like this whole super I don't know, pro self. She's like a big self-defense advocate as well. Oh, okay. And she seems to have a decent. Yeah, I guess she got like assaulted and like choked out or something before she got into martial arts, and that's kind of what's driven this entire I don't know, Kevin Holland like female superhero mission she's on. So that's probably a good marketable thing for her. But yeah, I'm after hearing you talk about this and Victor talking, I'm less likely. The wheels are kind of turning in my head now, and I can kind of see why she is the favorite. And I'm less likely to pull the trigger on that prop that I had, which was Brogan Walker by decision. But again, I don't know. This is the fourth female MMA fight. I know my boy Cody from Blood Money MMA Bets. He was on all four of the underdogs, and he thought he was going insane. So I made him feel better. I'm like, I'm on three of them, So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Wouldn't this be funny if this is the one like card where like every single female favorite comes through? Like this is the card. I know you're doing. Are you doing like a big experiment, like money wise, where you're just betting on all of the underdogs and seeing trend wise who comes through?
Yep, yeah, it's a thing I'm calling the She's a Dog project. I started a separate profile on Bet MMA Tips. It's just betmma.tips/She's a Dog with dog spelled DAWG. And what I'm doing is I'm putting 1 unit on every underdog in every women's UFC fight. Like I'm trying to do it at the closing line. Like I'm waiting until pretty close. I end up doing it on Friday because I'm afraid if I do it Saturday morning, I'm just going to forget or it's going to slip my mind or whatever. So yeah, just putting up 1 unit blindly on each underdog in women's fights just to see kind of long-term how it plays out. So far we are losing, but not by a whole lot. I think I'm down like 2 point something units at the moment, or maybe 3, something like that.
Everybody's guessing my age here. Patrick is 28.
I see that.
In 2 weeks, that'll be true. Yeah, Walker opened up as the favorite, but the line flipped real quick. Yeah, that's true. And I was always wondering, Victor, what I was missing on that one and why that line is the way it is. But it's starting to make more sense to me now. So that was actually this is probably the most progress I've made on like changing my opinion on a fight this entire night. But speaking of, you said Brogan Walker was a little bit slow to pull the trigger. Speaking of Muhammad Usman, the younger brother of Kamaru Usman, speaking of slow to pull the trigger, this guy is a bum. And he's facing Zach Pauga, who is pretty much just an oversized 205, where he fought most of his career at, I believe, a little bit at 185, and then also at 205 for the most part. He's 5-0, professionally 4-0 amateur for Zach Pauga. And, he's not going to be the undersized guy. Like, he actually gained that weight pretty well. He'll be weighing in around the same as Muhammad Usman. Both are right around that 240-pound range. And if you look at the stats from the show, there's a big discrepancy from what's on his Tapology. Like, they listed Zach Pauga at like 6'1" or 6'2" on the show. And they listed Mo Usman at like 6'1" instead of the 6'2" on his Tapology, and their reaches were a little bit different. So I thought that was strange. Probably more accurate on the show since they're measuring them from the UFC stats. But neither guy is that young. They're both 33 and 34 for Usman and Pauga respectively. Muhammad Usman has that Dontel Mays syndrome, and he actually fought Dontel Mays and lost to him by decision early on, which is not a good sign after last week. Anybody that even touches or has anything to do with Dontel Mays, I want nothing to do with. But I first saw Muhammad Usman back last year at PFL when he fought that guy who looked like a blown-up Chris Weidman and a guy named Brandon Sales, who was a massive guy, 40 years old, came off of a long layoff. And, he pretty much just outlasted Usman, was able to eat whatever overhand right Usman would eventually throw, and just kind of like out-cardioed him and ended up making him quit, pretty much choking him out. I don't know. I'm not big on Muhammad Usman. When you watch him inside the Ultimate Fighter, nothing got much better. He faced the sloppiest bum crew of heavyweights on the Ultimate Fighter and barely won those decisions, man. It was very close. So the guys were so bad on the Ultimate Fighter at heavyweight that them doing nothing and Muhammad Usman like maybe throwing a jab here or there, that's what he is good at. He's good at throwing a jab every now and then. But they pretty much just gave it to him because he wasn't showboating and looking ridiculous. Maybe got that Usman rub as well in the judges' scorecards. I think Pauga is going to be the faster guy here. He's got better stand-up. I mean, I've seen Usman go for takedowns in the past, but I think Pauga is going to go that route before Usman decides to do anything. So unless Usman looks entirely different and, sacks up here, I don't think he wins this fight. I think Pauga should win. And I like the overs, honestly, because both guys are so hesitant. Like, Usman has been durable, but he does nothing in return to, end the fight. So the over 2.5 is plus 100. And that's kind of where I'm with this. Am I crazy, Erik?
You're not crazy. Actually, my favorite prop on this fight is Pauga by decision at plus 150. So I'm in the same boat. I think, unless Usman is able to, I think he's pretty much KO or bust here for the most part. Pauga is he's a pretty solid, snappy, technical boxer. He's gonna, he throws the snappier, straighter, more technical punches. He's the faster guy, the quicker guy, the more agile guy with the better footwork. He's going to be using a lot more movement, throwing a lot more strikes. Usman, like you said, he just kind of loads up on that big overhand once in a while, and then he might, if he gets you near the cage, he'll throw hooks from his pockets. Probably has his eyes closed while he's doing it, one of those things. So yeah, I think Usman is. And like you said, he will go for takedowns sometimes too, but I think Pauga's he seems to have pretty solid takedown defense. Like I think he'll probably be okay there. Yeah, I see Pauga just using his movement, using his speed to just pick apart Usman for all 15 minutes and probably win a decision here. And that Pauga by decision, I haven't put anything on that yet, but that's a spot that I might actually be betting a little bit on. I do like that.
Do you think it's so clear that Usman is not on this level compared to Pauga that you would bet the money line on Zach Pauga at what is this now, like 240, minus 240 or something ridiculous, minus 245? Would you pay that price on Pauga, or do you think he's too unproven?
I did put him in a parlay.
Okay,
but the way that I treat parlays, like I shouldn't. Like I'll put a fighter in a parlay whose money line I wouldn't play.
Right.
Like ideally I should be making sure that the value is there even when putting them in a parlay, but I don't. I don't love the money line on him, but at the same time, I really think that Usman's path to victory here is pretty narrow. So it's a price I don't hate, to be honest with you. I think it's about right. I think it makes sense.
I know what you mean by that with the parlays. It's like you're willing to wager 1 unit maybe on Pauga, maybe nothing more, but instead of getting, a fraction of that back, you want to tie with somebody else and get more than a unit back in return. Like, I want to wager this on you, but I want my money back. But so you're just trying to up the value that way. But really, Technically, you guys, you should be good with the value of the guy if you're going to parlay them. Victor, keeping me off the parlays. I'm spouting my anti-parlay advice here. We do all this research on looking at the probability implied by these lines, and we try to get an edge over the bookies to make money on these lines and look for mispriced lines. And when you guys parlay 2 fighters together, it really does make no sense at all. You're tying 2 things that have no correlation together, and it really becomes more of a lottery ticket than the hard research that we put into this. So trying to get off the parlays. Victor's been making me go to Parlay Anonymous, and I got all this stuff from the brochures they gave me. So, yeah, everybody's talking about the dirty judges and Usman by last name. That's true, man. I worry about that. Honestly, this stuff isn't that scripted, but, man, every now and then these weird scorecards come up, and you see Dana White probably threatening somebody, from the backstage. I don't know. I do worry about that too. Like, what if Usman does become? We saw on the Dana White Contender Series last night, like that big pep talk that Dana White gave backstage. All the guys got finishes for the night. So
yeah,
maybe him and Usman will corner his brother somewhere backstage and say, "Look, you motherfucker, you better honor the family name here and get your ass in line. We're not giving you all these PEDs for nothing." To go out there and lose a decision. Anyways, moving on to Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal in the co-main event. This is a fun one at welterweight. Both of these guys have been exciting in the past. Vicente Luque is always exciting. Usually Jeff Neal, he's been kind of in a slump after that layoff in 2020 and 2021. Plus 150, the underdog Jeff Neal, minus 175 around for Vicente Luque. Do you agree with this line, Erik? I'll let you kick this one off.
this was kind of a tough fight for me, honestly. When I finished the tape and pulled up the line, because I do the method where I watch the tape without knowing what the line is, so I can kind of set my own line and then compare it. And when I pulled it up and saw that, I think Luque was at minus 170 when I finished the tape, and that seemed about right to me. It was a spot that I decided I didn't want to bet because I was like, that line feels pretty accurate. But I have since seen a few different folks who I respect and who I think are pretty sharp bettors, feeling like that was a really good line on Luque and feeling like he should be quite a bit of a bigger favorite. So this is one of those spots where, people have different feelings about this. A lot of people think that, like, once you've made your read, don't let other people sway you off that read. It's like, well, if they're people that I know are sharp people and people that have consistently done well and who I know have good reads, I will let them sway me sometimes, because, like, all right, you've got information I don't have here or thoughts that I haven't thought of. And so I was kind of expecting that line was going to move quite a bit after hearing how a lot of people seem to feel about Luque, and he's still sitting at like minus 175, I think. So I actually did put him in a parlay just today. Because I think it does make sense if you think about it, that, like, okay, Jeff Neal's a dangerous guy. He hits hard. But Vicente Luque is also a dangerous guy who hits hard, who also is he can also be a submission threat. Like, I just think Luque is the more dangerous guy. He's got more ways to win this fight, whereas Neal is a little bit more, has a little bit narrower of a path to victory, I think. And Luque is also just kind of proven against a better level of competition, I think. Luque has, his recent Darce chokes over Chiesa and Woodley, both in the first round, if I remember correctly. Like, he's a dangerous guy who's dangerous wherever the fight goes. And so, yeah, I ended up reaching the conclusion, with the help of some other folks, that I don't mind the line that he's at right now. And I think maybe he is kind of still bettable at that line. Where are you at on it?
I played the money line on Vicente Luque at, I put 1.75 units to win one back. I do like that money line. I just think he's got more ways to win. Both guys are still shockingly young, right? Vicente Luque is still like 30 years old. Jeff Neal, not that far past, right? Like 31, 32. And I think Jeff Neal really fell off when he started facing guys that could figure him out, like Wonderboy Thompson figured him out. You can really frustrate Jeff Neal if you just give him a bunch of different looks, like the leg kicks, the high kicks, jabs to the body, jabs up top, switching stances. All of these things are things that Vicente Luque does pretty well. So I just really think that that's going to frustrate Jeff Neal, who's been a little bit gun shy, a little bit shy to pull the trigger recently. And, he does have that KO potential. He can land the better strikes as well. Like he did against Ponzinibbio, he was able to land better strikes and really get outstruck in the numbers, but still win the rounds. I worry about that a little bit for Vicente Luque, who's kind of like a finisher and not very good in his decision record, but all of his decisions are against, really good guys that he's lost. So I like Luque here. I think he can win a decision even and add that over Jeff Neal. I think this goes over. Both guys are super durable. Even though they're like really potent finishers, the odds would probably like be more swayed to this going under just because they both finish a lot of people. But if you look at Vicente Luque, never been finished by strikes. Jeff Neal has never been finished by strikes besides like Holland way pre-UFC. So what do you think about the overs and unders in this one?
Is it set at 2.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think I don't have a strong feeling about that. I do think I lean for it to. I mean, both guys do have finishing capability, but I'd sort of lean toward thinking they're going to cancel each other out a little bit. I think I like it to go over. I don't have a strong feeling on that one way or the other, but I think I do like it to potentially go to decision.
Yeah, I got the over 2.5 at plus 105. I haven't played it yet, but that's my play for this one. And it seems a little bit dangerous, and we probably will be sweating this, but I've seen Vicente Luque cracked by some pretty hard punches, and he doesn't go down. He recovers well. Same with Jeff Neal in certain spots there. Usually Jeff Neal does just struggle against guys like volume punchers, right? Like Stephen Thompson, Neil Magny, who was able to mix in the grappling as well. Ponzinibbio did the kind of a Neil Magny game plan a bit, but he still got beat by a questionable split decision. So I don't know. Do you think Jeff Neal's kind of fallen off of a cliff? Do you think his momentum has been stopped, or do you think that Ponzinibbio fight was like back on track for him? Where do you think Jeff Neal's at in his career?
That's a good question, and I don't know how to answer that. Jeff Neal's actually kind of a guy that I don't feel like I have a strong read on him overall, both skill set wise and just kind of like every so often there's a fighter that comes along that I'm like, I just don't know if I know who you are as a fighter or if you know who you are as a fighter. And Jeff Neal's a little bit one of those guys for me, if that makes sense. I don't feel like I have a strong read on where he's at necessarily, but that's a good question. Yeah, like you said, he's only 31 years old. He's really not that old. See, he's a guy that if you would have asked me to guess, I would have guessed Jeff Neal was like 36, 37 years old, I think.
Yeah,
just
I know.
In my mind, he seems like an older guy.
I think the same way. He's a little bit slow lumbering at this point now, and he does have like a lot of knockout finishes over guys, like Nico Price, Mike Perry, and that was kind of leading him to be this like dark horse in the welterweight division, honestly, before he was fighting Stephen Thompson for a 5-round main event. But once he lost that, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. So the Ponzinibbio one, he really just barely squeaked by. Like, it went to the scorecards. I had no idea who won that fight. I thought Ponzi would get his hand raised there, but I don't know. We'll see. Vicente Luque is a tough test. I think Luque still has momentum going. A loss to Bilal Muhammad, just, if you get smothered by Bilal for 5 rounds, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me in some worlds, like, sure, there's a glaring hole in your, your defensive wrestling there, but that's not going to be a problem against Jeff Neal. So going on the Luque side here. Yeah, I did lay down a money line bet on that one. Did you lay down cash on that one yet, or are you just waiting? I
put Luque in a parlay.
Parlay, right.
And I'm still thinking about a money line bet too. Yeah, I haven't yet, but I might still do that.
That's the problem with the parlays too. It's like once you allocate what you want to on that and pair them up, then it's like you don't want to double dip sometimes with the money lines. Now you're kind of trapped. Your hands are tied. Like now if my parlay fails and I've got a money line that also fails, now you're really screwed. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tough spot to be in, which moves us to the main event, who I think people are going to parlay up one of these people a lot, which is Jamal Hill in the main event, taking on Thiago Santos at 205. Jamal Hill, getting back on track. He had that loss to Paul Craig where his arm got snapped in half, and he did not submit. It counted as a TKO stoppage for him, but now he's been back on track against Johnny Walker, a first-round knockout. Thiago Santos is not the man he used to be. He's 38 years old, had his pinnacle moment against John Jones in the split decision loss where he was very close. One judge called it for him, but he didn't quite make it there to the top of the mountain, and now he's sticking at 205, a former middleweight, and, he's been on quite a loss streak himself, right? I mean, most recently in March, I believe it was, he lost to Magomed Ankalaev. You see flashes of his old self when he knocked him down, but, before that pretty much should have been a loss against Johnny Walker, a loss to Alexander Rakic, a comeback victory, a fight he almost won against Glover Teixeira. Glover came back and got the rear naked choke. I mean, so it's pretty much been, I don't count that Johnny Walker fight as a win for him. That was horribly pathetic. So pretty much on a five fight skid here, if you count that Johnny Walker as a draw at best. So I don't know, Eric, start this one off for us again, man. I mean, do you think Thiago Santos can come back here, or do you think this line is kind of accurate at plus 210?
It's funny that you mentioned as we were moving into this fight, like when you were talking about, when you have a money line bet on a fighter and you have that fighter in a parlay, and then you start feeling like you've got a little bit too much money tied up in one fighter. That happened to me with when Holly Holm fought Ketlin Vieira. I ended up having, and I didn't even do it on purpose. I just kept putting Holly Holm here and there and whatever. I had a straight bet on her. I had a bet on her by decision. I think I had her in a few. Right? Yeah, I had her in a few parlays, and that was a spot where I ended up losing like 5 or 6 units on that card. And if Holly Holm would have won, I would have been up like 12 units or something. It was a huge swing because I had her tied into so many different things. And I did not learn my lesson because I've kind of done the same thing with Jamal Hill on this card. Okay. I've got a money line bet on him. I've got a bet on him to win inside the distance. And I've got him in a parlay, I believe. And it's, it's one of those spots where it's just kind of, not to oversimplify, but it's kind of, the new guard versus the old guard. And that doesn't, sometimes the old guard's still got a vet lesson in store, but I just don't think this is that situation. Thiago Santos is 38 years old. I don't know what surgeries he had exactly, but had both of his knees fixed. Like you said, he's not as explosive as he used to be. He's not as dangerous as he used to be. We do still see those moments. Like you mentioned, it's not like he had a terrible performance in the Ankalaev fight. He had his moments in that fight. He was able to find the kind of moments that we can expect from Thiago Santos at this point in his career. And I just don't think that's going to be enough here. I think, he's the kind of fighter that he looks for those big shots. He loads up. I think Jamal Hill is going to be able to see that stuff coming a mile away. Jamal Hill is going to be a lot quicker. We did see moments in the Ankalaev fight where, Santos would come with his big combos, and Ankalaev would just kind of move his head, get out of distance, like he knows what's coming, just kind of waiting for it. Like, all right, I'm going to let you throw your combo, and then I'm going to time it and come with my counter. And I think Jamal Hill's going to be able to do that. I actually think Jamal Hill's probably going to get him out of there. I like Jamal Hill by KO, probably in round 3. I'm going to go ahead and pick a round so I look like Nostradamus if I get it right. Jamal Hill KO round 3. There it is.
Round 3. So what do you think round 1's going to be for 5 minutes? You think Jamal Hill kind of gives him his respect, pushes Thiago Santos back against the fence, and just stay safe for round 1? They kind of have like a ice-breaking period in a 5-round fight. How do you see that playing out in round 1?
That's a good question. Yeah, because Jamal Hill doesn't always necessarily do that, does he? Yeah, that's a good question.
But he hasn't always fought a guy like Thiago Santos who's like so menacing. Like Johnny Walker is a good warm-up fight for it, right? But Johnny Walker is so goofy. He leaves a lot of openings more than Thiago Santos does, right? So this might be a spot where they just kind of, just break the ice for round 1 and just circle around. But I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that Jamal Hill will do that. But I can see this being drug out late, man. And, to see Santos in another main event that's supposed to be a fireworks and it goes 5 rounds, it's not the worst thing in the world. So I took Jamal Hill's money line, and I just paid the price. I paid the 2.75 units for him to win 1. I probably will get there with like the inside the distance, which is almost the same as the KO prop. I think it differs by like $5.
Yep, that's what it was.
It's like plus 155 versus plus 150. I'd probably just go inside the distance because who knows? But for a $5 difference, what's the big deal there? So almost like the Ngannou, right, where everybody took him by knockout and he wins by decision. But I'm taking Jamal Hill here. I just think he'll have a 3-inch reach advantage, I believe, too, right? So maybe getting in range will be a little bit easier for him here. This big. It's almost like a Sam Alvey like loss streak for Thiago Santos if you don't count that Johnny Walker win. And he does have the experience. He does, have that big moment over John Jones. But a lot of the times that he was winning fights, he was really risking it to win, right? Like down at 185 and the early fights at 205 against like Blachowicz and Jimmy Manuwa. Like he was really risking it all to go in there and get that knockout. He had that confidence. I don't see him having that anymore. So Jamal Hill, one of these guys who has all the confidence in the world. And this is a big 7-year age gap in the favor of Jamal Hill. And outside of that unfortunate Paul Craig slip up, man, he's been unbeaten. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a safe parlay piece for anybody parlaying out there. But, yeah, it's the other thing we got to talk about is the doctor stoppage sort of streak we've still been on. We had Ortega. We had Tom Aspinall. Last week we still happened to have Anthony Smith in a way that was like another like unfortunate injury. So I don't know who's going to be this week, man. This like injury bug is still in the UFC 3 weeks in a row. So I don't know.
Maybe Jamal Hill is gonna land a leg kick and Thiago Santos's knee is actually literally going to explode.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll see.
They have to walk out Thiago Santos in those like tiny Tim braces, like he has to like limp out. He's got those little arm braces. I don't know. But man, that wraps up the main event. We're going to go over our top 3 props that we have picked from the night. If you had to play 3 of these, Erik, I'll start off with my best 3. I mean, we're going to go from the main event that we just talked about. Jamal Hill inside the distance at plus 150. I saw definitely a top play. I think he gets him out of there, like you said, within 3 rounds for sure. I do like that in the co-main event, that Neal Luque over 2.5 at plus 105. Both guys are just proven to be durable. I like that one to go over. I haven't seen either of those guys chinned in the UFC. So plus 105, not bad. And then Cachuera, I look like Zombie Girl Cachuera to win by knockout, plus 575. I'm probably going to play all 3 of those. I've already played the Cachuera one for a quarter of a unit. How about you?
Let's see. I do have a couple. I didn't go through and pick my 3 favorite props. So what I'll do is look at the props that I've actually bet, because those must be my favorites, right?
Yeah.
I did bet Hill wins inside the distance. That's one I like quite a bit. I did put a little bit on that. I put some on Quinlan by KO and Quinlan by KO round 1. I do like those quite a bit. And let's see. Let me just kind of take a look through here quick and see what's another one that it's not great plus money, but I do like that Pauga by decision at plus 150. I mean, considering he's sitting up around minus 260 or something like that, to turn that into a plus 150 for what I feel like is probably his most likely win condition, I don't mind that.
A decision on that one?
Yep. Now I'm trying to find like a good plus money one that I really like, because I gave out some kind of wimpy ones there.
Well, yeah. Also, shout out to my boys Ty and Preston over at the Early Weigh-In podcast. These guys do great work, and you guys got to go subscribe to them. They put out weekly breakdowns as well, some best bets content, and they're just always tracking on Bet MMA tips. Follow them on Twitter as well. Great show.
My other favorite prop is I'm going to get weird with it. Eric Gonzalez in round 2 at plus 3,000.
Oh, I like that. I do like that,
because why not, right?
You can see his gas tank working out in round 1. It's like very dicey. Like he clearly wins, maybe even a 10-9 or even a 10-8 round. Eric Gonzalez somehow makes it through, and then you see Terence Mckinney on his stool just like hyperventilating. I can see that. That's a crazy prop, honestly. I think like I said, the live betting market will just absolutely explode if there's big odds on Terence Mckinney going into round 2. Everybody's gonna be hopping on that Gonzalez train. So
yep.
God damn. Well, any other big money ones? I had my biggest one is the Cachuera. Like I said, Cachuera round 3. I had that at plus 2,000. Any other crazy ones? I know I'll be seeing your big money bets coming up here soon.
Yeah, I can't think of any other ones right now, but yeah, I'm going to be going through looking at everything.
You can really get creative on this card, man. There's a lot of unproven fighters in this card that you can see. A lot of fighters we talked about all show. We just don't really know that much about them in some cases. You don't know if they're great, you don't know if they're bad. A lot of these fighters are really going to get tested this weekend, so you can really get creative with the props here and probably not have really a bad argument against it. So, yeah. See, there we go. My boys putting the fire emojis behind that one. Hopefully that'll pay out. I should just unload I should just max bet that, see what happens, see if I can retire by the time this weekend's over. All right. Well, without further ado, Eric, let the people know where they can find you. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on my very first stream, and it's been a fun fight card breaking this down with you. We'll definitely do this again. I'm going to rotate guests. I'll have Lou Betty on here next Wednesday to talk about which one is that now? That's Vera versus Cruz, I believe, next week. So I'll have him on there from the MMA Engine. But Eric, the floor is yours. I put all of your links in the comments below or the description. Let them know where to find you.
Awesome. Yeah, it's an honor to not only be a guest on your show, but to be the very first guest. Oh. No one can ever take that away from me. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Patrick. Thanks to everybody in the chat as well. Thanks y'all for hanging out. We've got some weird feces eating conversation going on.
I like it. Well, yeah, actually, you've got one more question to answer here from Carlos Germano.
Do I also like eating women's feces? I don't. I haven't tried it, and I probably won't. I do eat a lot of weird, gross foods, but that is not one of them. But yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat for being here. Again, you can find me at ErikBetsFights on Twitter, at Erik_Bets_Fights on Instagram. I would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. I think that it's down in the description down there. It's just ErikBetsFights on YouTube, and also the Never Hedge Media YouTube channel. I put out some of my content there as well. And yeah, I'm always down to talk fights and just kind of make friends with fight fans and that sort of thing. So yeah, thanks so much for being here, and I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, man, Eric, you're part of the reason I got into this game, man. You're one of the first people that I was like, you know what? This is another OG fan of the sport. Maybe I can get into putting out some content too. So it's your fault I have to do this every week, but I do enjoy it. It's been a really fun hobby and a way to make some money. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys have been awesome, and we'll do this every single Wednesday at 9:30 Central Time, and keep on rotating guests. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and I appreciate you guys. Good luck on all of your bets this weekend. Cheers.